Kim and I retired. She was 37 and I was 47, 10 years apart. Took us 10 years. But all we did was get richer after that because we found our formula. And our formula wasn't go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, get out of debt, and invest in the stock market. That wasn't our, nothing wrong with that formula. It just wasn't our formula.
What was your formula?
Play Monopoly.
Yeah.
4 greenhouses, Red Hotel. And the McDonald's formula of our, as Ray Kroc said, who founded McDonald's is in the business of real estate and paying no taxes. So that's anyway, when Tom and Kenny and the other advisors come here, their job is going to twist your brain to see it differently. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. It's going to be a whole mind shift of what we've been taught. And
From
very
school.
non-traditional ways where sometimes when you think about not paying taxes or using debt, it's like, what are you even talking about? How?
Right.
And that's dangerous.
Because you've been taught to pay taxes and get out of debt, right?
Brainwashed, yeah.
Right. So what I'm glad you're starting on here is you bring in my advisors in. Remember, advisors are my teachers. They're not just telling me what to do. They're not experts. We work together, we plan together. Right now, Tom and I and Kenny, because Kenny is who I invest through using debt, and Tom would advise me on taxes. So that my game I play is not be a good employee and work hard and pay taxes. My game is to be a capitalist, to have my money and investments work hard for me, so I can make millions and millions of dollars and pay no tax. Now that drives a lot of people crazy, right? If you have money, you have more power. If you have attractiveness and sex appeal and all that, you have more power. So I think one of the most misunderstood words here is power. And that's why we have Rollo on this program. It's about power. So, and whether and I don't know if you want it or you don't want it, but I would say most people want more money. People want to be more attractive, to be more, sexually attractive, or have great relationships and things like this. But also you want more power, the ability to do, because many people today are trapped. And when people lack power, their lives are kind of different. So power is simply the ability to do, and one of the biggest abilities is, can you change an addiction into a good habit? Can you take a bad habit into a good habit? So for example, ever since meeting Rollo and the gang, I was able to break my habit of overeating. I overeat every time I'm under stress. What do I need to do? I need to eat. And thanks to Dr. Nicole Shrednicki, an ultra-healthy human, and the encouragement of Rich and Rollo, I've been able to get my body back down to Marine Corps weight. And I'm 74. So I have the body of a 25-year-old now when I was in the Marine Corps. But I had to get over the addiction of eating. That was tough. Thank God I didn't drink that much or smoke. But that's power.
You've been making headlines, everyone's covering it, where you're warning people, hey, folks, brace for a major market crash here.
Right.
What do you bring us this Christmas, Robert?
Well, the reason I love you guys is because I'm a hardcore gold, silver, and I'm Bitcoin and all this. I'm a hard asset guy. So it's good news for us, but it's bad news for the boomers. Very bad news. And what's happening is Jay Powell of the Fed is trying to push the yield curve up. But as most of you know, the real yield curve is the euro dollar curve. It's not the Fed curve. And the euro dollar curve went inverted. Now, every time that has happened, tragedy follows. So most of us are old enough to remember the last time that yield curve, not the last time, but an earlier time was 2007, the euro dollar yield curve inverted and the Fed was trying to hold it up. So the Fed's pushing it this way, but the euro dollar is going this way. And that led to the Lehman moment, 2008. So then what happened in 2019, it inverted again, the repo market inverted, the euro dollar inverted, and COVID appeared. So once again, the euro dollar yield curve inverted just recently, and I'm standing alongside my friend Jim Rickards that this next one is going to be the biggest of all. Now, it's good news for some people, but horrible news for the boomers who are starting to retire. So if you're a stock market person and you're counting on the stock market to keep you alive,
Yep.
Let's say you're 65 years old and you're going to live to 85, you might be in serious trouble. I get a little disturbed every time because it happens like 5 times a day. A young man or young woman come up to me, oh, I'm getting my real estate license. Oh, I'm buying real estate. I said, at the top of a market? So the reason I highly recommend, if you subscribe to only one newsletter, there's lots of them out there, is Bert Dohmen, D-O-H-M-E-N, Capital Research, his Wellington Report. And again, he has his free book, his free advisory, Surviving Soaring Inflation, The Opportunity of a Lifetime. And this is it here, just, you can get it. And The Opportunity of a Lifetime. And I agree 100% with him. You have no idea what it was like. Some of you were too young. I'd go into a Chinese restaurant and they had whiteout on all the menus. I like Chinese food. But anyway, so one day rice would be $1, next day it'd be $2. And they had to keep whiting stuff out. I'm going, holy mackerel. And then I put together, when I was flying in Vietnam, why my rich dad, who was Chinese, said, watch out, because they took the dollar off the gold standard. They're going to print money. And it's called money supply, not interest rates. That's exactly what Bert was just saying right now. So they're going to try and raise interest rates to slow down the economy, and they're going to exacerbate. We're in a recession already because things are slowing. The velocity of money is slowing at high rates of speed. But also, it's going to crash the economy, and we may be going into a depression. Now, oh, you're such a bad news guy. I tell you something. I learned more in the 70s than I do today. Because when I was trying to put a real estate together when interest rates are 20%, you get really smart. I mean, I had to be creative and all this to still make it cash flow. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's only how smart, how creative, how smart you are in the future and how resourceful and resilient you are. Because I'm afraid Bert's correct. This is May 2022. I think we're heading into a depression. There's going to be a recession. That's a given. We're already there technically. But a depression is going to be a whole nother Megillah. And some people will be wiped out. Exactly as Bert says, the last depression gave us communism. I invest with Kenny McElroy in real estate. So let's say he buys a building for $1 million to keep the numbers simple. He increases the rent so that he refinances the building at $2 million. So we have $1 million in debt. He borrows out another $1 million. We now have $2 million in debt. And he and I get the $1 million extra. How much in tax do we pay for that extra $1 million?
Zero.
And who pays the debt?
The tenants.
The tenants. Rich Dad's World teaches capitalism. So I'll read you something because this comes from this book here, The Capitalist Manifesto. Because years ago, 1965, I read this book here, The Communist Manifesto by Marx. And Marx was just like my poor dad, an academic. And the trouble with academics is they're poor. They have no idea how capitalism works. So stay tuned at the end of this program to find out how capitalism works. So once you understood this, I understood my rich dad, why he did things the way he did. And my poor dad hated my rich dad. My rich dad's my best friend's father. And rich dad had all these houses and he paid no taxes and he owned hotels. He was playing Monopoly and rich dad paid no taxes. And my poor dad, being a communist but didn't know it, he hated the rich. And that's what Marx did. Marx hated the rich. But I want to read you a quote from Marx. So all of you who believe that paying taxes is patriotic, this comes from this book here, The Capitalist Manifesto. And this book here, The Communist Manifesto, it says here, a heavy or progressive or graduated income tax is necessary for the proper development of communism. Let me read it again to you. This is Marx's words. If you want to verify, just read this book here, okay? It says, a heavy or progressive or graduated income tax is necessary for the proper development of communism. And that's what's happening in America. So if you want to be a communist, you stay on this side here. You want to be a capitalist, you come to this side here. And again, Rich Dad's World offers you opportunities to understand this side, not this side here. So anyway, that's why Tom is one of my go-to guys, because the less tax I pay, the more capitalistic I become.
That's right.
The freer I become.
How do we generate cash flow, passive income, which is one of the tenets you preached in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, in today's high inflationary environment?
Well, I'm still a real estate guy, but I've never been a flipper. You know, guys were buying a house for $10,000 and selling it for $20,000. I don't do that stuff. I buy income producing real estate. Like if you owned farmland and it's producing, let's say, alfalfa, that's an asset. I own cattle. I own Wagyu cattle, because what I sell is the Wagyu bull's semen. You know, there's cash flow. I should change that to semen flow. And what that's hanging behind me is, you know, George Gammon. He always talks about the economy is hanging on this hot air balloon. And that little basket down there is us, you know, just dangling from this balloon. And that balloon happened in, as most people know, in 2008, when Bernanke, who was awarded the Nobel Prize, can you imagine that, printed trillions of dollars to blow the economy into a bubble. And it was the everything bubble. You know, stocks and bonds went up, real estate went up, and he kept dropping interest rates. So the dollar became more valuable. But what happened this year, David, is that balloon's coming down. It's called what Andy Shepard calls the 3 times crash. Stocks, bonds, and mutual funds crash, real estate crashes, and cash is trash. It's going to start flowing. The US dollar, is going to start flowing back to the US because treasuries are going down. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you've got to study with Chris Voss. I mean, the number one skill of an entrepreneur is communication. You can call it negotiation, you can call it sales, you can call it whatever you want. But as my friend Blair Singer says to me all the time, he says, sales equals income. Do you know? And when I find somebody who can't sell, it's their income is low, or vice versa. But more than that, we interviewed Chris years ago when his first book came out, Never Split the Difference. And I hate to say I didn't read the book, but I will read the book now. I would admit that. And all I remembered from that, which a lot of people remember from Chris, was the midnight DJ, voice and all that. So I was practicing that. It didn't work. But what really worked, Chris, I'm going to surprise Kim on this, because, about 3 or 4 years ago, Kim says, I'm out of here. I don't want to be married to you anymore. And I went, ¿Qué pasa? What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Then I was listening to you discuss my friend Donald, the Trump, and he's a really good friend of ours. But what you said about him, it just hit me right between the eyes. I was going, holy mackerel, Donald plays win-lose. He has to win. He wins at all cost. And I was going, oh my God. And then this is not your words, but I paraphrase the same, but if you play win-lose, pretty soon people stop playing. And then
that's exactly it.
Yeah, and that's my way of saying with Kim, we're talking before the show came on, I went to military school. Day one, we're screamed at. There was no compassion. Then I joined the Marine Corps, and I learned to adapt to that behavior. Do you know that you talk to everybody like a Marine? So for 35 years, I talked to Kim like a Marine. And one day she said, I've had enough. So when I was listening to one of your podcasts, I went, oh my God. So I want to thank you, because what your technology is more than sales, it's more than negotiations. You have the key to world peace. If we could learn to speak with kindness and humanity and support,